So the warmer months are upon us, and I'm not sure if I'm the only one here, but I hate wearing loads of makeup in the heat. Honestly, sometimes all I want to do is slap on an easy face of makeup that I'll still feel confident in, but I don't want to touch it up or think about it throughout the day, and that includes my eyeshadows. I honestly feel like a good eyeshadow look can make or break your look. It can be a focal point to your look, and it can bring it to the next level, or it can be kind of that finishing touch on your look. So today we're going over my current top 10 one and done eyeshadows to give you an easy, no fuss, but beautiful and reliable eye look. Hey guys, welcome. And if you're new here, hi, I'm Christina. I've done a video like this about a year ago, and I wanted to note that I still use a majority of those one and done shadows, and I very much still give them my stamp of approval. So I'll link that in the description box for you down below in case you're interested. But today I want to talk to you about an updated list of 10 one and done eyeshadows. I have broken it up into finishes this time for you. So we have some mattes, we also have satin slash shimmers, some glitters, and in the end, I'm throwing in a couple of eyeshadow palettes that I think deserve to be recognized for how easy and no fuss they are for me. Okay, so for some background, I do have oily eyelids, and some of these do require eyeshadow primer for me, which I'll mention if it's applicable. I'm not much of a cool toned eyeshadow lover, and most of these do sort of lean more warm or neutral. What I want to avoid is boxing you in and making you think you can only use these alone. Many of these products look incredible as bases or in conjunction with other eyeshadow products, even the ones that are included in this list. Use them as a base, use them on top of your favorite crease colors with your favorite eyeliners, smudge into the lids. My hope is that you can find a new favorite shadow product to incorporate into your existing makeup routine that kind of helps you feel inspired by your collection and of course helps you feel great. All right, so first up we have our mattes. So matte shadows are perfect when your goal is to just add dimension. For me, I have a pretty flat face, and my eyes especially are flat in terms of having a very defined crease and brow bone. And I would say I have very small eyelids. They're slightly hooded. So shadows really help to kind of break up my facial structure. I have a few mattes that I have not been able to put down. So the Armani Eye Tint in Cashew was an eyeshadow product that I wanted for such a long time before I even purchased it. These are going to be liquid shadows that are meant to be long lasting and crease proof, and they have a few different finishes. This shade specifically is described as a warm tan matte, but I would say that it pulls a bit like a tan salmon on my skin tone, so it's a little softer than what you would expect from a warm tan, and I would even argue that this is actually fairly cool in tone for me when it's on my lids. But I will say it's almost like the perfect cool tone because it gives the exact shadow type of look that I'm going for to create that extra dimension on my lids. I feel like a lot of people are intimidated by liquid shadows because they have a reputation of drying too quickly, so they become hard to blend out and evenly, thus making them look patchy on the eyes. But honestly, these Armani Eye Tints are really worth the hype in my opinion. I like to do a very small swipe of product on the eye before going in with a fluffy brush of some sort and blending them in. They almost feel creamy, but I hesitate to say that just because they're so thin that you can't even really feel them once you actually blend it in. Even when I swatch them on my arm, once they dry and I run my finger over them, they feel almost soft and not necessarily crackly like you might expect a liquid shadow can get. Now, with any liquid shadow product, I like to work one eye at a time. So I'll dot on a little bit, blend it in, and then I'll move on to the other eye. These do dry down quickly, but not too quick to where I don't have time to blend them in. And like I said, they feel lightweight, so it doesn't feel like a film of product on the eyes. I don't find that I typically wear primer with these. However, if it is super hot and I wear these for like 10 plus hours, I do notice a little bit of creasing just on the inner corners. Primer does eliminate that issue for me, but for the most part, I'm not wearing these in extremely hot weather conditions and any longer than 8 to 10 hours anyways. So for me, I can get away with wearing this alone, and I typically will because it's just one less step. I do want to note that if you find cashew is too cool for you, but you're around the same skin tone and still want something that'll add that depth and that dimension, try 25M Sandalwood. This is a newer shade to the eye tint line, but to me, this is a slightly warmer tan beige shade that still gives the same effect. At first, you may not see a difference, and I would say you probably don't need both, but it just comes down to undertone preference in this case. Sandalwood is a true tan on me compared to cashew, which again gives the illusion that it's a bit pinky and cool toned, even though I know if it were applied on someone with a cool undertone, it would look way more tan and warm on them. So About Face has some incredible eye paints. If you're looking for an easy eyeshadow that doesn't break the bank, has some really fun colors, but also some really wearable shades, About Face is the way to go. In my original One and Done eyeshadow video, I talked about the shade Fracture, and that one is gorgeous. I still reach for it when I want an easy glittery eye, but the matte shade in Capulets is arguably just as beautiful. Capulets is going to be this soft brown matte that at first kind of looks like it would be too light for me, and I really hesitated for a while to pick this one up because I felt like it was just gonna be like this ashy pink shade on me, but it's actually very similar in tone on the eye to Cashew from Armani, except this one is a little less cool and a bit more neutral. And not to mention, at half the price, it delivers exceptional quality. So these are noticeably creamy and slightly thicker right out of the component, and all you need to do is the tiniest little dot of product on the lids before blending it out with a brush to get that beautiful diffused matte shadow effect. These can tend to look slightly dry on the eye if you're not careful and you add a bit too much, but after playing with it a few times, you can really achieve that effortless dimensional eye look with a little bit more practice. But it's honestly not that difficult, it just takes a couple tries. You would think that this being creamy, it would crease, but because of that dry down being so matte, these tend to last even better on the eyes than the Armani Eye Tints. I have never had to use a primer with these, and I say these because I have multiple colors and they hold up incredibly well. The dry down is a bit longer because of that thicker creamy texture initially, so you have a ton of time to play with them, but once they dry down, they're not budging. Honestly, the entire line is great, and it's also an easy way to build your collection of having fun colors without breaking the bank. You can get these on sale or with coupons at Ulta, so it's definitely a great one to check out. So next up is the same product but two different shades. I tried to narrow it down, but I feel like I wouldn't have done it justice and it wouldn't have been honest because I truly switch off with these so often. So we have these are the Bobbi Brown Longwear Cream Shadow Sticks, and I have the shades Cinnamon right here and the shade Taupe. If you are a shadow stick lover, these are the ones for you. They are such great staples to have in your collection for a budge-proof base or as a simple one and done shadow. Also, if you have oily lids, these are the ones. So I find that these are super creamy when you swipe them onto the eye, but they do dry down fairly quickly. So again, I highly advise that you work one eye at a time with a little bit of product and then kind of building it as you go. I know that that sounds scary or like they're a fussy product, but I promise you that it's really not. So I like to either swipe it on directly onto the lids, or I'll go in with a brush like on the stick and then then I'll blend it into the lids. They are very, very pigmented, so I would advise you to go in with a really light hand whenever you're kind of like blending it in with a brush. And the great thing about shadow sticks is that you can really easily control where you want to add more product in the case that you want to like deepen the outer corners, or if you want to like use a little extra as eyeliner and skip using another product altogether. So cinnamon is really, really great when I want something a bit more dramatic. It's a very warm reddish brown shade that adds some drama without being too dramatic, if that makes sense. So if I'm taking a photo, for example, or filming, and I want something that'll deepen the eyes without doing like an entire smoky eye, then I'll reach for this shade. Taupe is in kind of the same boat for me as Cashew from Armani or Capulets from About Face. This adds a bit of dimension, and it's going to be something I think will work for you whether you like a cool tone or a warm tone. It blends so thin and it's so customizable that you can kind of manipulate this one to look how you want it to within the realm of the color, if that makes sense. All right, and you guys, I'm kind of cheating here, but I wanted to include the newest matte One and Done eyeshadow to me that I have really, really been loving, and that is the Violette FR Yeux paint, and Yeux means eye in French. This one is in the shade To Do. This is insanely pigmented but has a almost light as air feel to it. I have been loving this one because it's a matte medium beige shade, but in terms of the shade, it's somewhere right in between the Armani Cashew and Sandalwood shade. It has that almost warm tan that Sandalwood has, but also the salmony pink tone that Cashew has. So it's essentially a warmer version of Cashew on me, and I love it so much. This definitely feels thicker right out of the tube, but it's more of a wet formula, so there's a lot of playtime here before it actually dries down. I find for the most part, I haven't had to use a primer with this, but this is one where it gives me the faintest amount of creasing, so it wouldn't hurt to use a primer, but I can definitely go without it if I just didn't feel like wearing one. And also, the reason I'm making this kind of like a bonus product is because transparently, I haven't had this one for very long, but I'm just using it so much these days, and I love this shade so much that I didn't want to miss out on recommending it to you guys because I feel like you will also really love it. All right, moving on now to our satin and shimmer finish shadows. When it comes to One and Done eyeshadows, my first thought is a shimmery satin finish eyeshadow. And the reason I think that is the shimmer in these types of shadows creates such a dimensional look that it can look like you used multiple eyeshadow colors when in reality, it's just the one. I also feel like they're the perfect bridge between just being a shadow and being an entire eye look, you know? It just gives a little something more for every day, and it takes like 2 seconds to do. So let's go ahead and get this one out of the way. I have this one on my lids by itself today. I already spoke about this formulation, but this is another Armani Eye Tint, and this one is in the shade 69S. The naming on this one is kind of weird to me. It kind of tripped me up because on Sephora's site, it's called 69S Copper, but on the box when you purchase it and on Armani's site, it's called 69S Auburn. So just be aware of that. I believe it's just go by 69S. So this is a beautiful warm copper tone that doesn't pull red. I honestly hate when coppers are basically a rusty red because I don't think that they complement my complexion at all. I prefer something a bit on the warm gold side of copper, and this has that gold to it. The Armani satin finishes are very subtle and you can build it up if you want, but it initially goes on almost less pigmented than the mattes do. So this is perfect for just a kiss of color if that's what you want. I personally like to build this up so it's more intense on the eyes, and I kind of like blend and diffuse it the higher I go past the crease. This one is quite a new shade for me, but I have been thoroughly enjoying it. But again, the lasting power is good on this. I don't have any issues, and it truly is is that no fuss type of product for me. Now we have an eye paint of sorts again. This is the RMS Eyelights cream in the shade Flare. I feel like I hesitated a really long time to try this formulation out because I actually think that the marketing photos on these aren't the best. I feel like from their marketing photos to TikTok to Instagram Reels, the same shades look so vastly different that I couldn't confidently purchase them for a really long time, but I finally bit the bullet and I am blown away by this formula and shade. So the shade Flare is going to be an antique warm gold that I think is a pretty universally flattering gold. It's not going to pull too orange or yellow because it sits on a neutral brown base, and it has a rich cream texture that you would expect out of like a paint tube, so a little bit of this goes a very long way, and I like to take this on my fingertip and swipe it on and blend it that way, and it blends very lightly and easily, and it's almost airy. I feel like this creates almost a creamy layer on the eyes that you can stretch so far. It creates this sort of pigment film, but not in an uncomfortable way. So if you've ever tried the Kulfi cream shadows, it's similar, but not as noticeable of a finish, like the way it feels on the lids. So like I said, I like to blend and tap it in, and then once it dries, it's not going anywhere. It truly is a crease-proof product, and this will stay on my eyes as long as I need it to. Another great thing about this is that it is truly buildable. You can use a very small amount for like a wash of color, or you can really build it up and play up that metallic finish that this one has. It's so dimensional and beautiful. I cannot get enough. It really looks great in person as well as on camera, and you guys have asked me every time that I wear this what it is. So this one admittedly was not on my radar at all, but they sent this to me and I think that it is a definite hidden gem. This is the Jones Road Just a Sec cream eyeshadow in the shade Bronze. So Bronze is going to be a golden brown with a multi-dimensional shimmer that I find isn't overpowering. The texture of this one is so interesting to me. When you touch it, it kind of feels cool to the touch and like cushiony. It's similar to the texture to the new Rare Beauty Bouncy blushes in that sense. And right off the bat, this gives you kind of like this wash of color, and you can only pick up so much at a time, which makes it very difficult to go overboard with this one. I will say that there is a good amount of shimmer to this, almost a disproportionate amount to the amount of color and pigmentation that you get, but the effect on the eye truly looks like you did an entire eyeshadow look, but you didn't. It's definitely buildable, but I like to wear this with like a medium coverage, and I think that that looks perfect. So I do find that I have to wear primer this one. It'll crease without one after a few hours, and I like to apply it with my fingers, and I use my fingers to kind of blend it upwards. I feel like these are truly slept on, and I highly recommend checking them out if you're like me and you like an easy product, but you also want a little something more than just a wash of color. So I bought this one back when I visited Japan last summer, and it is the Decorte Eye Glow Gem Skin Shadow in the shade 17G Autumn Dazzle. And I want to preface by reminding you guys that Japan specifically is very big on soft washes and easy shadow colors on the eyes. So this is going to seem unimpressive at first, but a soft focus look is very popular, and I think that's why this product is such a popular one there. So this is a cream to powder shadow, and this again feels like a bouncy shadow that's nice and creamy when you're kind of like feeling it in the pot, but turns into a powder when you blend it into the lids. They actually describe this as being sort of like a mochi texture that melts into the skin because of the proprietary flexible matrix technology that it has. That was a tongue twister. I would say that this is a much softer texture than the Jones Road one, so a primer is a must for this one as well. And this one is going to be the softest satin looking one on the lids. It's just like a soft focused, almost kiss of color and sheen on the eyes. This is really beautiful in person, but I would say if you're looking for something to pop on camera, then this won't be the one. I like to reach for this one when I just want a tiny bit of something. The annoying thing about this one though is because they're so soft and diffused, I don't think that it would work if you have a deeper complexion, and it would just mostly be the finish that you see here. But they have expanded their shade range since I picked it up last August, but I am eager to try out more of the shades to see if I can find another one and done shadow from the line. So last of the finishes are the glitters. I feel like I need to let you guys know that these are going to be ones that I think can work on the eyes alone. However, I think that they shine the most with a little bit of a deeper crease color, at least for me. So sometimes I'll go in with a little bit of like bronzer in the crease, or I'll go in with like a matte shadow that I mentioned earlier, or just like a powder matte shadow. They actually go with a lot of the eyeshadows that I talked about earlier. Either way, I would highly encourage you to kind of like play around with these because they are so fun and they can really create a beautiful eye look in such a short amount of time. So I would be remiss if I didn't include this one. This is the Zari Eye Cream Shadow from Kulfi in the shade Sona Sona. Sona Sona is truly what my glitter eyeshadow dreams are made of. I continue to rave about this formulation and I don't plan to stop because it's truly something special. So the Kulfi Zari Eye formula is extremely long wearing and I don't require any primer. They do dry down to a bit of a harder film, but not in like a crumbly or crusty way because they still apply very thinly on the eyes and I don't have any trouble with it because of that. If you love a glitter shadow, but maybe you don't like dealing with like the fallout that powders tend to give you, then I think this would be perfect. The creamy texture of this is buildable and you can play around with it before it completely dries down. And then after that, it's not going to move around or be like falling onto the face. I have probably used this as an eyeshadow topper on like every single eye look that I've ever worn because at the end of the night, you know that before shower makeup playtime that you typically have, I'll just grab this, put a little bit of it on top of whatever eyeshadow look I'm wearing, and without fail, it looks incredible. I think that this works universally because it has a base of champagne to it with silver and gold flecks, so it just works with every skin tone and every undertone that I've seen it on. Truly, if there is one standout like must-have product from this video, I think that it needs to be this one. It's going to be the one that can take your look from 0 to 100, and you can go with just a tiny bit or you can like really build it up. The possibilities are truly endless with this one, and these last a very long time, by the way. I have had other shades in my collection now going on like 3 years and they all still perform like a dream. Now I want to talk about a Chinese beauty brand called Novo. I have this eyeshadow in the shade 01, and this is similar to the Kulfi shadow in the sense that it'll give you that scattered glitter look, but this one has a stronger base color, so I'm actually able to wear this as a true one and done eyeshadow. So this can give me that true wet lid effect, but I can build it up to be really glittery and impactful. I get asked every time when I wear this in videos about an eyeshadow tutorial, and this is literally it. It reflects light so well and just adds that fun texture on the eyes. It's definitely a bit of chunky glitter when it comes to the glitter, but I haven't had any issues with it giving me any fallout, but I thought that I would mention that in case you are sensitive to glitters. I cannot get enough of this one. I use a primer with this, but I honestly feel like I have worn it without one and I think it's been fine. I think that these are also maybe like $4, but I did purchase this on YesStyle a while back, and when doing research for this video, it showed that it wasn't currently available to ship in my area, but if not, I will keep an eye out and try to find a place where you can purchase these in the meantime. Honestly, I think when it comes to glitter shadows, the Asian beauty just dominates in this category because next we have this Joocyee single eyeshadow. I think that these are pretty popular in terms of Asian beauty shadows. This one specifically is the one in the shade D113, which is bronzed gold. So this one is going to have a softer amount of glitter. It almost bridges the gap between being a glitter and a shimmer. But when I compare this side by side with both finishes, it definitely leans more towards being in like the glitter family. So this has a baked formula. So the texture of this is super, super smooth, and it's really easy to blend in with your finger. And they describe these as being a monochrome eyeshadow. So the glitter in them matches the base color. So in this case, we have a bit of a yellow gold glitter on top of a warm brown base. This one feels like a step up in intensity to the Jones Road Just a Sec eyeshadow. The bronze in this is a bit deeper, and there's much more glitter in this one as well. So I like to wear this one when I'm going for a really easy smoky eye, because the glitter mixed with the bronze shadow gives this so much dimension and that sultriness that I kind of crave with a smoky eye. If you want less glitter, then you can apply this with a brush, and if you do that, it'll give you more color, and you can kind of like tap off the brush before going in on the lids, and it'll get rid of like that excess glitter before blending onto the eyes.
I also wanted to show you guys all of the glitters next to each other, and I also got some footage of me using my phone flash above it, so you can kind of see like the dimension and depth of all of the glitters and how they kind of shine all over the eyes. Really, really love all of these, and I really appreciate that they have a strong color base underneath, which I think adds to the effect of all of them being a good one and done eyeshadow.
All right, so as a bonus, I wanted to include 2 eyeshadow palettes that I have been using that I would say are as easy as one and done eyeshadows. And they're also the palettes that I reach for when I know I don't want to go all out on an eyeshadow look on that day. So the first one is going to be the Surratt eyeshadow quad in Beyond Beige. This is definitely pricey, but Surratt will have periodic sales, and I would encourage you to wait for those sales. But if I'm being honest, this is worth every penny regardless. Firstly, these are made with a Japanese slurry formula, which means that they can be applied wet or dry to get different amounts of intensity, and it's gonna go on smooth and non-patchy. I do apply these dry, and I love the soft amount of pigment that these give you. At first, when you apply it, you're kind of like, this is not gonna do anything. It doesn't look like it has much pigment at all, but almost like magically, the pigment just, it blends and deepens while creating a really smooth amount of eyeshadow. If an eyeshadow could be smooth or look smooth, then that's what these would be. So this is a pre-made quad, but you can purchase each of these shades individually. And actually each one of these shades work as a one and done eyeshadow, and they look beautiful. I've used every one of them that way, I believe, but I think that these all work so well together, and that's typically my preference. So this shade right here, it's this super soft warm gold that looks flattering on my complexion, and I truly hadn't found an eyeshadow shade that looked so flattering on me until this one. It almost looks like a natural shade, like a cartoon. You know how cartoons will have makeup on and it just looks like it belongs there? That's how I feel about this shade. This quad, it's truly, truly something else. And you guys, I would not recommend something that is so expensive if I didn't truly believe in it. But I love this so much. I tell everyone about this. I've had it for a little bit over a year. I even have it in my project pan because it's something I use consistently that I know I'll be getting some great use out of anyways. And I have a video where I'm applying this, and it was also in my top products of 2024. So yeah, super, super good. Last, I wanted to throw this in here because it's one that I told myself I didn't need, but now that I have it, I truly appreciate it, and I think that you guys would too. So it is the Natasha Denona Mini Eye Sculpt palette, and this is a really easy 4-pan eyeshadow palette, and it has that iconic Natasha Denona eyeshadow formula, and it feels like butter, and it blends seamlessly and so easily into the eyes. Looking at this in the pan, it just doesn't seem like anything spectacular, but I bought this during the Sephora sale, and I've used every single shade, and I love each one, again, separately or with each other. It leans a little bit more on like the cool neutral side, I would say, but I don't find it to be too cool to where it just looks like a gray shadow on me. So I really like that I can use them alone, or I can use them as duos or something, or I can use every single shade and create like a smoky eye. There's so much versatility with this palette, and it kind of takes away that overwhelming decision fatigue feeling that bigger palettes can sometimes give you when you're trying to figure out like a whole eye look. I've used this palette as a base to some of the previously mentioned products in this video, and I've also used the shades on top of those products just to give it a little bit more something. I just think that it's really fun, it's easy, and it's worth it if you're looking for the most basic shades in the best way that still perform incredibly well. Okay, you guys, so those were all of my recommendations for easy one and done eyeshadows. Have you guys tried any of these, or are any of these on your wish list? Let me know if you think I've missed something, or if there are other products out there that you think others will enjoy in the comments down below. Again, I will leave my first video of one and done eyeshadow recommendations in the description box down below, as well as linked right here for you in case you want even more recommendations from me. But until next time, you guys, take care. Bye.